From the Neweum in Washington, D.C., this is the Future of News. Welcome to the night studio and our conversation about media and news in the digital age. I'm Frank Sesno. Our guests today are two giants in the world of investigative journalism. Bob Woodward of the Washington Post is perhaps the preeminent investigative journalist of our time, as well as a prolific best-selling author and editor. It was his reporting of the Watergate scandal with Carl Bernstein that led to the resignation of President Richard Nixon in 1974, reporting that inspired a generation of American journalists. Bill Buzenberg is executive director of the Center for Public Integrity, one of the most respected nonprofit investigative organizations in the nation. Bill was formerly at NPR, American Public Media, and he helped launch Morning Edition, Talk of the Nation, and most recently, APM's major investigative unit, American Radio Works. So welcome to you both.
Thanks.
Let's start with the question at hand. Just how serious is the crisis afflicting investigative journalism? Bob?
We're in a convulsion because the newspaper business specifically, but all media, I mean, to be candid, they're making money. And so the business model is dying or dead, and if we can't make money, no one's going to pay our salary. No one is going to have the courage to actually broadcast or report what we find out. So we can write, letters, or we can go on the internet, but as this kind of collective, in-depth investigative work that the New York Times or the Washington Post or NPR or some of the networks are doing, there won't be money to support it.
Bill uses the word convulsion. That's a big word.
Investigative reporting is risky, it's time-consuming, it takes a lot of resources to do it, and to do it really well, and then stand behind it in case you get sued, etc. I think it is in crisis, and I think the real reason is how many thousands of fewer journalists are doing this work, are being able to do this work. So I would say this is a very serious period. There is still some great investigative work being done. Believe me, lots of it is still being done. But I think in general, and particularly regional, local levels, I think that's where we see less of this.
Bob, let's define investigative journalism for a moment, because for those who haven't worked in newsrooms and who haven't experienced it, to really understand it is to appreciate just what's involved. This may mean assigning 1, 2, 3 reporters to a story that can take months to dig into, going through documents, trying to use the Freedom of Information Act to pull information out of the powerful, and maybe at the end of the day there's not even a story there. So you need some real butts to put behind people here.
That's right, and you have to have the good luck or the instincts to pick the right subjects to look at. But I'm not sure I'm enamored with the term investigative reporting. I think it's in-depth reporting. Well, because it implies you're going to put the mayor in jail for paving his driveway or something like that. That there is an element of prying or snooping, and it's not. It's really in-depth reporting, but we're going to have it. It's like in one of the ads. We're there in the news media to do serious work when there's a crisis in the country, like 9/11. Remember what happened after 9/11? Everyone turned on their televisions and read their newspapers for a week, 2 weeks solid.
Right. Bill?
I think the term that we've been using is accountability journalism in some ways. It's about transparency. It's about holding powerful interests accountable. And that can be in-depth, it can be investigative, it's a wide range of things. But I think at root it does important for democracy. Bob has used this wonderful term, and I've quoted you many times about democracies die in darkness. And it's fundamental to our democracy to have information, transparency, that people can see what's going on and understand it. That's what's so important, and that's what's at stake.
That's right, and it's not just, Bob, I mean, the work that you have done at the highest levels of government, the highest level of Washington, that's by no means the only place for investigative or accountability journalism. Whether it's the Catholic Church or powerful corporate interests, Enron is a good example. These things take time, and oftentimes it's only reporters who can get access to some of this information.
Sometimes, but I agree. I mean, this idea of democracies die in darkness, if you look at all the problems we have, the wars in Afghanistan, Iraq, terrorism, the economic crisis, the healthcare crisis, the education crisis, if we asked the audience for a list, we would be here all day. But the thing I worry about the most is secret government whether it's at the national level in the White House or the CIA or the Pentagon, or at the local level, the city
Hall,
council.
and the school board, whatever
Yeah,
it is.
exactly. And secret government is what will do us in the end. And what we're trying to do is say, and that's exactly the right phrase, accountability journalism. We're coming in and saying, what are these people who have power really doing? And not just accepting the wave top answer or the public relations answer, but digging and going to people, getting the documentary evidence if you can, to say this is the real story.
Bill,